Communism was finished in 1991. They had elections then. Because
don't want NATO down there.
Well, yeah, do you want NATO? NATO is evil. NATO is an expansionist organisation that is creeping into us.
They don't want NATO down there.
Well, would you want an organisation that's got about 30 odd countries in it, pointing ballistic missiles at you? Everybody do it. Oh, so is that good, is it? So Russia's turned around and said, Ukraine, actually, on my flag, I'm going to show you. You've got three
What flag is that? What flag?
It's a Russian flag.
Russian?
Yeah. So you've got the three crowns on that flag, right? That represents the three Russians. That's an old imperialist. But I'm talking to them at the moment. I can only talk to one person at the moment. I'll talk to you afterwards, right? So what happens is, right, in the olden days, the Tsar used to say, I'm the Tsar of all the Russians. And there's three Russias. You've got a country called Belarus, you've got Russia itself, and then you had Little Rus. Who is Little Rus? Because there's a country called Belarus now. It's Ukraine. Ukraine has always been part of Russia. There is no country called Ukraine.
There is.
Well, yeah, well, we're not talking to you. So we can talk to you afterwards, right? And that's why he was the Tsar of all the Russias. So the point I'm trying to make is Ukraine has always been in Russia's sphere of influence. And you're only about 300 miles from Moscow. So if Putin allows America to put Ukraine into NATO, Putin allows Ukraine to be put in NATO on the eastern borders of Ukraine, only be about 300 miles from Moscow. It would take about 2 or 3 minutes for some of these missiles to. So he said, "No, I'm stopping it. I'm not allowing it." So at that point,
ridiculous.
We're not talking to you. You can have your turn in a minute. So he basically said that if you do this, I'm going to go in and I'm going to stop it. You took Bulgaria, Poland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. You took Czech and Slovaks, right? You took the Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavian states. All of them virtually, not all of the Yugoslavian states, have been put into NATO. And NATO is an aggressive thing. It's all about, they want the commodities of Russia, which has 1/3 of the world's commodities.
They all wanted to join NATO, those countries.
Well, yeah,
they applied to join NATO.
But NATO was about
for their security.
NATO was about to bring about the end of the Soviet Union. It ended. So NATO's job was done.
It failed. It's another story. The Soviet Union failed.
Well, right. Well, whether it failed, it was never going to last. But the point is, so you didn't need NATO. So what it is, it was about the West thought they had hegemony, especially America. They thought they had hegemony over the world, right? And we heard George Herbert Walker Bush to say we've got the one world, the new world order, right? So they said that no one can stop us now. They went into Iraq. Right? Who believes that 9/11 was like a load of Muslims crashing into a building? I don't. We all know now that it was created by Mossad and the CIA. There were internal explosives into the building, that's why it fell down in its own footprint. And it was an excuse to attack a load of Muslim countries surrounding Israel. So this is all part of the New World Order, on the fake premise that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. If you follow Scott Ritter, he was the weapons inspector that exposed it. They didn't have weapons of mass destruction. They were told they had no weapons.
Situations are exploited.
Well, right.
Situations are always exploited.
And now,
it's always the case.
So now they're exploiting it as well. They're taking Ukraine and trying to, but they're not going to do it. Putin's put his foot down and said no. And actually, he's demilitarised NATO. He's shown NATO to be nothing but a paper tiger. And what is the biggest military in NATO this side of the Atlantic Ocean? What is the biggest military? Does anyone know what the biggest military is in NATO on this side of the Atlantic Ocean? It's Turkey. Right? They've applied to join. No, they would never ever be able to get their troops over to this side again. Russia has got hypersonic missiles. You have to bring them over by ship. There's never getting it.
Here's a question. Who is supporting Russia?
Pardon?
Who is supporting Russia?
Russia supports itself. As I say, it's got one thing.
China.
Oh, yeah.
Are they a threat to the West?
No.
No.
No, not at all. China has never ever had, in the days before Western imperialism, right? China never ever went out having wars to conquer the whole world, to have hegemony over the world.
Taiwan.
Well, it's actually always been part of China.
But
You do know that the Taiwanese government had a civil war, right? It was a nationalist government, right? They had a civil war backed by the America that the communists won, secretly backed by. So what happened was they got to Taiwan and they said, well, we're still not giving up, we're not being part of China. But you know, it's got to a stage now where it's been going up. I mean, China's not communist. They might have a communist flag.
Taiwan wants autonomy. They want their own state.
Right, well, you know what? It's between Taiwan and China. What's it got to do with you or me?
It is, yeah.
Well, Cuba. Yeah, right, thank you. Well, let's talk about Cuba in 1960, yeah? Should we talk about Cuba in the 1960s?